lot to do with that. And so I really really appreciate that. And I think I speak for Ferguson when I say that in a real profound way. And I know I never even thought about running for office or anything like that. But, now I'm like, shoot, yeah. Because, I always looked at it as you had to be a sellout to do it. Like I didn't want to just get a couple of Negroes a good job. I see the conditions people living with. And I really like how you said, Charles Barron, that, it's not just talking about the symptoms, all day long, or just really helping, using this platform and exposing the core issues of what's happening with us. Because long as I'm colonized, I'm going to have contradictions. But I want to be able to fight for a new world. And so I really, really appreciate this room. And I know that, a lot of people didn't make it, but a lot of people, like the chairman said, I unite, that this school we have to use this, these recordings and use everything that we're doing here, because this is an historical event that have to be duplicated again, because people want this, and I just really, just really have a deep appreciation. And Glenn Ford, you killed it once again, and I really appreciate just laying out the whole relationship we have with this system, and how we can use this, and how, the contradictions in it, and how we fell for it, and what we need to do, and shaping it and molding. And I mean, this is real, and this is what the people are moving towards, and we just helping them to organize them and mobilize them to what they already want. Uhuru.
Can I find out what's the count in terms of the number of people who viewed this online? Can somebody give me that information? Okay. Does anybody else or anybody want to respond to what the comrade just said? Or Glenn was there in Ferguson when we did the national conference on black community control of the police. He came in as well, and I thought that was one of the really important things that happened in Ferguson, and I think it was important that it did happen in Ferguson as well. But, yeah.
I wanted to throw something out that actually puzzles and bothers me, so it can puzzle and bother you. And that involves the prospects for a civilian police control board in Newark, New Jersey.
Oh, no.
Now, the way things stand now, the mayor, Ras Baraka, son of Amiri Baraka, who was in his own right an activist, who has led anti-police brutality demonstrations in his past. He proposed that there be a civilian review board type of organization, including community organizations, but it was unclear whether such a board would pass court muster in New Jersey, because New Jersey is difficult. All the cities, of course, are chartered by the state, and whether such an autonomous board could exist and have any authority over a police department was in question. So the mayor set this board up in such a way that its powers, including the subpoena powers, are actually his subpoena powers. So the board is presented to the public as basically a community review board of police with subpoena power, but it's really the mayor's subpoena power. Now we don't know if that will pass court muster either, because of course the police unions are suing and saying even the mayor's subpoena power as a proxy can't work. Now here's the question for political people. Community organizations like POP, which is a member or was a founding member of Black is Back, are included in this board, and they've been supportive of the mayor in creating this. But if the board is actually the mayor's board, if the subpoena power is actually his, is it really a community control board. You're on there as community organizations, but you're on there at basically at the pleasure of the mayor. So it's not a community control board. And if its powers are even more curtailed because of the police union's suit, when do you break with the community control board and say this is useless to us? You are actually breaking with the mayor. And if you do make that break, what is your response to the police situation? Your option as a community organization is to be disruptive because and continue to demand something that is independent. But you've made a pact with this mayor. And the mayor is not going to want you to disrupt the city because of your complaint about there not being an effective and really independent board. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's not about a candidacy, and I know that the core subject today is people running for office, but it is electoral politics, and it is about social movements, and it is about how one deals with black folks who have been elected, like Ras Baraka. How do you sustain an independent movement under those specific circumstances dealing with a community, a potential community police review board? And I know Brother Barron has.
Oh, yeah. First, I want to say to Brother O'Neill, man, we have everything we need to win elections as revolutionaries. We have everything we need in the presentation that you put forth. It was thorough, and he was being kind to us going through it real fast because there's a lot of detailed stuff that is very, very important. So I think all that has been presented here, that presentation, I think, is at the core and the basis of what's needed. And I was following you on the live stream stuff and everything. I am so proud of you because you are bad. You know, you got up and you've been getting down, and I've been watching it and talking to Brother Arande Takuma. He's in New York with us, and he speaks of you highly. And I see your picture up there, you know, with the Central Committee. So you've come a long way. You've come a long way, and you've come very strong. To Glenn's position, this is proper for an electoral movement because it's not just about candidates winning elections. The purpose of tactically getting involved in the electoral arena is to impact budgets, to impact policy, to have a platform for your voice and your politics, and to do those kinds of things. The best move, I think, for independent civilian complaint review boards is the referendum process. Because in New York City, we have one, but it's, you know, civilians, once they finish all their work, guess who determines what the punishment is going to be? The police commissioner. The police commissioner. So they do all the work, and then the police commissioners, and I heard you say subpoena power, but what happens after you subpoena the people and they finish all their work? Then who metes out the punishment? Once you say they're guilty, you know, who determines what their punishment is going to be? So we need real civilian complaint review boards, and I think it's going to have to come through the referendum, not through a mayoral appointment and not through any state structure. The other thing that they did, and they manipulate, I feel, for the mothers and fathers and families who are victims of police killings. Hillary Clinton paraded them on the stage. In New York City, the governor, Cuomo, had them all up in the governor's mansion, and then, you know, Glenn's raising a tough issue. So when they come to me, Charles, we know you don't like the governor, but we need to get this special prosecutor. And can you, not, I said, I gotta say what I have to say. You don't want a special prosecutor. See, this special prosecutor that the governor is bragging about he got for these families, and I'm sitting there telling the families he's playing you, because the special prosecutor is the attorney general. The special prosecutor is the attorney general, and he had the nerve to only have it for 1 year. like we're not going to have a need for it the year after. So I said, no, we need an independent prosecutor, not a special prosecutor. We need to create an independent agency to prosecute police that has subpoena power, prosecutory power, and determine what the punishment is. We can't have anything connected to the system, whether it's a mayor or an attorney general. It cannot be connected to the system at all. If independence is going to be, then let's fight as this movement develops and we develop candidates. We have to fight for an independent prosecutory body to prosecute police and punish them when they do wrong. Because other than that, let's go back to, let me leave that alone. But other than that, we have to handle and protect ourselves by the best means necessary, because when a system refuses to protect you, the police you pay out of your dollars not only refuse to protect you, they murder you, and then the system that's in place to prosecute exonerates them. So what the hell do we do? We can't just sit here and die. So when I say, we're going to have to do whatever it takes, that's why I like your second, I think, your right to armed self-defense. It's real. It's real, because we can't just die. So when I say this, they say, oh, he's militant, he's promoting violence. I'm promoting violence. I'm being killed by violence. We're trying to stop violence. So that's a real problem, because when you have black elected officials saying they're progressive, and then they come up with stuff like that, and that's why even though when we did support Obama was critical support, part of our strategy in supporting him was that I thought that the black community would let me criticize him since I supported him, but they didn't even let me do that. They ain't really supporting Obama. Every time we turn around, he's criticizing him. I said critical support. But we have to say that, in a sense, this is so important because we have to define what we mean by African and black and consciousness. It can't be just black faces in high places and say we want a black this, we want a black that. Oh, you're going to get all of that. We had a black governor in New York, Governor David Patterson, one of the worst governors we've had. He did a whole lot of stuff to hurt us. We had a black mayor. And David Dinkins, and we had a black president. So you have a black president, a black governor, black mayors. This is not getting it. We need a black is back candidate. And then we get into positions and really define those positions. So I think this move is so critical, because there's a lot of municipal legislation that could be passed. There's state legislation that can be passed. I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of impact on federal legislation and the presidency. People talk about Trump. You can't let the racism in the Democratic Party hide behind Trump's madness. And I tell you, I get in trouble with this too, but when I was listening to that debate with Hillary and Trump, let me tell you some things that people missed. One debate, you know how Trump always stood there with his lip? He was mad at her for something. She raised something about Florida, and Trump said, what are you talking about? Them Haitians hate you in Florida. Slipped past everybody. And nobody followed Trump up on that. And then he said, what are you talking about? I would not have killed Muammar Gaddafi. He said, I wouldn't have killed Saddam Hussein. Not for the same reasons why, we feel. But he said, that's why when he said, y'all created ISIL, he was really saying, he didn't mean that they were at a meeting and said, hey, y'all, y'all should be ISIL or whatever. He was saying, by destabilizing these countries, now we hate these guys too, but these folk that y'all, and then the other thing, Trump was talking against free trade. See, I thought she was going to win, but I felt that she was in trouble when he went to Pennsylvania and told them coal miners and said, look, she's the one who is shutting down your mines, and she's against that, and they start talking about free trade. So we got to look at not Trump and Democrat Republic, what are the policies? This is why Glenn is so important to us. You got to look at policies, because it's all about policies. And then the two-party system, we know both are controlled by corporate greed, corporate money, and both the policies defend the capitalist domestic policies and imperialistic foreign policies. So when we look at those and then we get us in on that level, we have to keep that in mind and not be afraid once we get in to raise those contradictions and then get some goods and services for your people.
John, you were gonna?
He's not white.
No, I didn't say it was right.
Oh, Glenn is not white, yeah.
He's a European.
Glenn's not European.
I didn't say it was European or white.
No.
I think John thought he was right.
Well, I got a point to make.
Okay, but John, but your point is wrong. If you pointed to Penny and Jesse and said that, you'd be right. But Glenn, yeah.
Is anybody here a member of the AME Church,
AME Church?
African Methodist Episcopal Church? Did somebody raise their hand? Okay. Well, the African Methodist Episcopal Church was organized by the man by the name of Richard Allen. And he didn't call himself black. He didn't call himself Negro. He called himself African. He called himself a free African. And this was around 1812. He used to be a slave that was owned by and he was able to buy his freedom. And this is critical when you're talking about what it means being an African as opposed to being white, as opposed to be black, because these were terms that were used before Africans were